Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, is known for many things. But one thing that the world still can't be sure about today is where her tomb is placed. Many researchers and historians have tried to locate it for many years, but to no avail. However, a recent discovery has led a research team to think that they have found the queen's tomb. Is this really Cleopatra's tomb? Hi, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to explore Egyptian history as we talk about the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt's last active ruler, Cleopatra, and the most likely whereabouts of her tomb today. Both researchers and historians believe that finding her tomb will rewrite history, especially about the queen, given the fact that little is still known about her today. Before we find out the answer to this question, what facts do you know about Cleopatra? Tell us in the comments below. Even though Cleopatra is famous, historians and archaeologists don't have a lot of definite information about her. Here's what we do know about the queen, who's both legendary and full of secrets. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC. Her father was the Egyptian king Ptolemy XII Auletes, but her mother's identity is unknown. She was in charge of ancient Egypt for almost 30 years, initially sharing power with her father and later with her two younger brothers and her son. She belonged to a line of Macedonian leaders, started by Ptolemy, who was a general under Alexander the Great when he took over Egypt in 332. BC Cleopatra was smart and well-educated, knowing many languages. It was noted that she learned to speak Koine Greek while growing up, and she was the only one in her family to also learn Egyptian. Even though they adopted some Egyptian customs, they mostly ruled from the Greek city of Alexandria. Later on, her life became closely connected to the turmoil in Egypt and the politics of the Roman Empire. Now that we're getting into her life in politics, how exactly did Cleopatra ascend to position and power? Although her mother's identity is uncertain, it's thought that Cleopatra's mother was likely Cleopatra V Tryphena, who was the king's wife and might have also been his half-sister. In 51 BC, when their father Auletes passed away, 18-year-old Cleopatra and her 10-year-old brother Ptolemy XIII became the rulers of Egypt. At first, she ruled alongside her younger brother and even married him, following Egyptian customs. However, her brother wanted to be the sole ruler, and this led to a war as they gathered supporters to help them take control. Cleopatra had to briefly escape to Roman-controlled Syria due to this conflict. While in exile, Cleopatra asked Julius Caesar for help. She returned with hired soldiers to confront her brother's army at Pelusium. Meanwhile, her brother Ptolemy XIII welcomed Julius Caesar to Alexandria after allowing the death of a Roman general Pompey. Cleopatra sought Caesar's aid, sneaking into the palace to talk to him. Caesar needed money for his Roman influence and Egypt's debts. After about 4 months of battle, additional Roman soldiers arrived, causing Ptolemy to flee and drown. Caesar took control in Alexandria and reinstated Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy XIV. After Caesar stayed for some time in Egypt, Cleopatra had a son with him in 47 BC. From here on, the Egyptian queen was said to have used attraction and smart political strategies to help ancient Egypt achieve its goals when dealing with the growing Roman Empire. Before we head on to discuss what caused the death of Cleopatra, do you believe that Cleopatra used seduction to further her needs as the queen of her kingdom at the time? Let us know what you think in the comments below. After Caesar died, a conflict brewed between Caesar's allies, Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, and his assassins, Brutus and Cassius. Both sides sought Egypt's support, and eventually, Cleopatra sent Roman legions stationed in Egypt to aid the allies of Caesar. After winning against Brutus and Cassius at Philippi in 42 BC, Mark Antony and Octavian shared power in Rome. Antony summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus, in modern Turkey, to discuss her role after Caesar's assassination. She arrived in an elaborate ship dressed as Isis, the sister wife of Osiris, which impressed Antony. Antony pledged to protect Egypt and Cleopatra's rule, helping her remove her rival Arsinoe from exile. Cleopatra returned to Egypt, followed by Antony, who left his wife Fulvia and their children in Rome. After Fulvia's death, Antony married Octavia to show loyalty to Octavian. Cleopatra's rule enriched Egypt. In 37 BC, Antony sought money from Cleopatra for a delayed mission against Parthia. He agreed to return parts of Egypt's eastern lands in exchange, including Cyprus, Crete, Libya, Jericho, and sections of Syria and Lebanon. They rekindled their romance, and Cleopatra had a son, Ptolemy Philadelphus, in 36 BC. After defeat in Parthia, Antony rejected his wife Octavia and returned to Cleopatra. In 34 BC, he declared Caesarion as Caesar's true heir in a public event, sparking a conflict with Octavian. Octavian alleged that Antony was controlled by Cleopatra and would abandon Rome. In 32 BC, the Senate stripped Antony of his titles, and Octavian declared war on Cleopatra. On September 2, 31 BC, Octavian's army decisively defeated Antony and Cleopatra's forces in the Battle of Actium. Cleopatra's ships left the battle and escaped to Egypt. Antony eventually managed to break away and follow her with a small fleet. As Octavian's forces attacked Alexandria, Antony heard a rumor that Cleopatra had killed herself. Believing this, he killed himself with a sword. However, it turned out the rumor was false, and Cleopatra was still alive. Then, on August 12, 30 BC, after Antony's burial and a meeting with the victorious Octavian, Cleopatra locked herself in her room with 2 female servants. The exact method of her death isn't certain, but some writers suggest she might have used a poisonous snake called an asp, which symbolized divine royalty. She died at 39 years old. Following her wishes, Cleopatra's body was laid to rest alongside Antony's. But no definite information about the exact location of this burial place was noted in any material by any writer. Because of this, the study and search for the queen's tomb have been going on for many years now. Many archaeologists assume that Cleopatra's burial place was in ancient Alexandria. However, this would mean that it's now underwater because a significant part of the old Alexandria is now under the Mediterranean Sea. A diver named Frank Gaudio explored the waters around Alexandria extensively in the early 2000s. His goal wasn't to locate Cleopatra's tomb, and despite this, no evidence of Cleopatra was found. Nevertheless, most archaeologists still believe that the famous queen's final resting place is likely somewhere in the underwater remains of Alexandria. Meanwhile, Robert Gerval, a retired professor of classics from the University of California, Los Angeles, mentioned that even if the site was untouched by humans, natural factors like earthquakes and seawater would have hidden it beneath the sea. He also noted that Cleopatra's palace is certainly underwater, and her mausoleum might be as well. Thankfully, some archaeologists continue to have hope, excitement, and positivity as they tirelessly search for Cleopatra's tomb. Since 2009, a former criminal lawyer who became an archaeologist, Kathleen Martinez, has dedicated all her enthusiasm to discovering Cleopatra's burial place. Then recently, a group of archaeologists found a hidden tunnel beneath the old Taposiris Magna Temple in Egypt. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities shared the news in the fall of 2022. They called the tunnel a geometric miracle and said it is around 1,300 meters long, buried about 43 feet underground. Martinez was sure that after over 10 years of constant research, the Taposiris Magna Temple, which was built for the god of the dead, Osiris, was a strong possibility for where Cleopatra might have been buried. In a conversation with the Daily Mail, Martinez explained, Cleopatra worked out a deal with Octavian to let her bury Mark Antony in Egypt. She wished to be laid to rest beside him as a way to recreate the story of Isis and Osiris. The real significance of the Osiris cult is that it promises everlasting life. Following their passing, the gods were thought to enable Cleopatra and Antony to exist together in another form of life, ensuring they would be together for eternity. These ideas prompted Martinez to start digging at Taposiris Magna, which is the biggest temple dedicated to Isis and Osiris near Alexandria. With the help of modern tools like ground-penetrating radar, satellite images, LiDAR, and remote sensing, Martinez has found some remarkable things at the temple. The digging has also uncovered mummies that have gold-covered tongues and a burial ground with mummies arranged in the Greco-Roman style, facing the temple. This backs up Martinez's theory that a tomb for royalty might have been constructed in that vicinity. Additionally, they discovered 22 coins that have the pharaoh's depictions on them and a sculpture that's thought to represent Cleopatra. Researchers remain uncertain whether the tunnel might lead to these ancient tombs, but further investigations could provide additional insights. The potential wealth of information that Egyptologists, historians, and archaeologists could uncover from the tunnel would be immense. Most of what we know about Cleopatra and her time comes from writings by ancient Greeks and Romans, but these were composed after she had died and often presented a negative image of her. We don't have much evidence from an Egyptian viewpoint on Cleopatra, but the bits we do have, like reliefs honoring her on the temple she built and offerings made by her people, show us a different side of her. So far, no tombs belonging to other rulers from the Ptolemaic dynasty have been found. They were believed to be located in Alexandria's palace area and might be underwater, along with the rest of that part of the city. Just the architecture and items in the tunnel would keep researchers occupied for years, revealing a lot about the Ptolemaic royal traditions and how Greek and Egyptian cultures mixed. But if Cleopatra's remains were there too, they could offer much more information, like the cause of her death, how she looked, and even help answer questions about her ethnicity. Do you agree that this underground tunnel is where Cleopatra's tomb is? If not, where do you think it could be? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a like, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Thanks for watching.